Okay, so we'll continue on with the review. Following that, we'll go to SwordCraft. So starting off in SwordCraft, we have the main legendary, Hero of Antiquity. It's a 8 cost 610. So it's pretty fair for, the stats are pretty fair for an 8 cost. It has the skill, Rush, and can't be destroyed by spells and effects. In brackets, however, they say can be destroyed by damage from effects or attacks. So, okay, so I believe this is how this card works. Basically, it cannot be destroyed by spells and effects, so it means it cannot be destroyed by things like Thermis Decree and Tribunal of Good and Evil that has the effect destroy something. So this card cannot be affected by destroy effects. However, it can take damage from spells such as Crimson Sorcery or things like I don't know, any card that does damage, it can take damage from spells. So that is you cannot instantly destroy this card, but then you can deal damage to it until it depletes its HP and then it dies. But generally, I feel this card is pretty good because it's gonna be hard to remove for the SwordCraft field, and the only worry I have is it's quite a late game card. It's an 8 cost, and it's it will stay on the board for at least one turn, because I don't think, unless your enemy decides to trade everything they have into him, I believe he will be quite a sticky follower on the board due to his can't be destroyed by spells and effects ability. So generally quite a good legendary. He'll probably be played in one of the more late game decks, because since he has Rush, he can fight for the board for you if you want to clear off one big follower or clear one big taunt. So pretty good. I won't say he's like crazy, because I think most decks can function without him, but he would be a good addition to most late game SwordCraft decks. Following that, we have Cinderella from the fairy tale, of course. It's a 3 cost 4/4, so it's actually overstated. With quite a unique ability. Whenever another allied SwordCraft follower comes into play, return this follower to your hand. So every time you play another SwordCraft follower, she gets bounced back to your hand. This can kind of be quite a painful scenario, because if you are playing a deck with just SwordCraft followers, then you play her, and then the next turn she bounces back to your hand, so you basically wasted your turn playing her. Fortunately, due to this expansion, most of the followers you have are going to be neutral followers, so on turn 3 it's actually very strong to drop a 4/4 down, and then next turn or the next few turns you play neutral followers, so she doesn't get bounced back to your hand, and you gain the early tempo on the board. So it is a very strong card in the right deck. Also, it's a commander, so it can be fished out with mate leader as well, which is a nice bonus. Now that I think about it, Hero of Antiquity is an officer, so he cannot be found by mate leader. But Cinderella can, so I think this is a solid card in neutral SwordCraft decks. So probably the routine will be to play her, and then the next 2 turns I think maybe play neutral followers. Then when she's destroyed, you can start playing other SwordCraft followers again. So because she's no longer on the board and she won't be bounced back. So moving on, the next card we have is Whiterich Swordsman. He's a 5 cost 3/4, so quite understated. He has the skill though, Ward and Bane. So on Evolve, he also gains whenever this follower attacks an enemy follower, destroy the enemy follower before he can deal any damage in return. So it's basically like Medusa's effect. And also, just to take note, when he evolves, he only gains +1/+1, not the usual +2/+2. But that's a good trade-off for this effect, I believe. So, whoops. I think he's a strong drop. He has Ward, but more importantly, he also has Bane. So anything that trades into him will immediately get destroyed. And he's a good defensive play. The only worry I have is he's a 3/4, which means any 4 damage spell will destroy him immediately. And yeah, it can be a pretty strong play though, because assuming you're going first, you get your evolve orb on your turn 5, you can evolve him straight away to a 4/5, and then after attack something and straight away remove it. So it's kind of like a not only defensive card, but also well, it is fully defensive, but it also can be a removal option because it can destroy any enemy follower and the enemy follower cannot deal damage in return. So pretty strong card, I would say. Would probably run like a few copies of it in most decks. Next, we have a 5-cost spell, Council of Card Knights. So this card summons a Club Soldier, a Heart Guardian, and a Spade Raider. It's kind of similar to Outwitter's Command. It's basically a card that summons tokens for on the board. I believe underneath here they have here we go. So Club Soldier, Heart Guardian, and Spade Raider. So Club Soldier is a 1/3 with Storm, Heart Guardian is a 1/3 with Ward, and Spade Raider is a 1/3 with Bane. So 1 Storm, 1 Ward, 1 Bane. Not bad. All of them are officers, I believe. Okay. They are counted as neutral. Very well. In that case, I can see this card being quite good. Although, like, let me think, how should I put this into words? Its offensive capability is not as strong as Outwitter's Command, of course, because Outwitter's Command summons a 3/2 Storm and a 2/3 Ward. However, this card is cheaper and it summons 3/9 worth of stats in total. And also, 1 Ward for defense, 1 Bane for removal, 1 Storm for a little bit of extra damage. I would say it's a good card. For the tokens it summons, it's a pretty decent card. And all in all, there might be some decks that want to combo this together with stuff like aggressive SwordCraft decks. They might want to play this together with, what's that called, the banner of something? I don't know, but no, actually the banner wouldn't work because it needs to be an officer. These are counted as neutral, so it's kind of a tough card to use, not exactly the easiest to make use of, but I'm sure it'll find its way in some decks. Generally, I think this is not a bad card, you just need to use it carefully. And if I'm not wrong, since these are counted as neutral followers, Cinderella also won't get bounced back. So, pretty good. Also, take note, because of how Cinderella is worded, when another allied SwordCraft follower comes into play. So even if you summon things based on, say, what's the card called? The removal option in SwordCraft. I don't know, the 2 damage one. I'll put a photo of it up right now. So if that card summons a knight, she will also get bounced back because it's counted as a SwordCraft follower coming into play. So just a small thing to take note of. Following that, we have Maisie, Red Riding Hood. She's a 2-cost 2/2, so standard. On Evolve, she's 2/4/4, so again standard. Evolve, destroy an enemy follower if a allied neutral follower is in play. So basically, she's kind of similar to Little Soul Squasher, where she destroys something. Except first she needs to evolve, and second she needs an allied neutral follower in play. I don't think it's a bad card. I think it's actually pretty good. On evolve, you get to destroy something for free. But I would think there are better options, because usually you don't want to use your evolve on a 2-cost 2/2 unless you really have to. But I think the effect is strong enough to justify it because you get to destroy an enemy follower. So, pretty good. Probably, once again, in the more neutral decks because you require a neutral follower. So, pretty good card. Would rate it pretty highly. Probably run a few copies of it if there's the space. Next, we have Young Auger Hunter Momo. She's a 3-cost 2/2. Slightly understated in that case, with Rush. Okay, a 2/2 with Rush is quite interesting because normally you want Rush on bigger followers so they can deal them more damage, but a 2/2 Rush, interesting. Clash. Gain Bane until the end of turn if the enemy follower has at least 5 attack. So I guess this can be kind of used as, once again, another strong removal option. If you are up against a big enemy, she gets Bane and she can immediately trade into that and then remove it. So I would say it's a very strong card in terms of removal option. The only downside is the enemy has to have at least 5 attack, which means if your opponent plays something like Rahab, evolve it to a 4/7 Rahab, this will not gain the Bane against it since it does not have 5 attack. So it's good, but whether it actually sees play will be another thing. At least it has Rush because it means it doesn't have to wait a turn to attack and clear whatever's on the board. So I would say it's pretty good. We'll probably run like 2 copies at max because 3 seems a little bit like an overkill. Also because its stats are slightly weak for a 3-drop. So wouldn't say it's the strongest on board, just that her effect is quite good. So pretty decent card. Following that, we have Old Man and Old Woman. Interesting. It's a 3-cost 1/4, so about quite fairly statted, I guess. And the skill is can attack 2 times per turn. That's it. Just the ability to attack twice per turn. Okay. I guess it's not bad. On Evolve, it becomes a 2/5, so it only gains +1/+1 with Bane and attack twice per turn. So I guess it's kind of okay, but I don't really see it being played. I don't think I'll see it being played a lot because first, it's a 3-cost 1/4, so its stats are a little bit on the weaker side since it doesn't have as much damage. On Evolve, it's slightly better because it has Bane and it can remove 2 things if it survives the first attack. Unfortunately, that means you have to waste not only an Evolve orb on this, you have to commit 3 mana to summon. I just don't think it's very playable. I might be wrong, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna be seeing play a lot. Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. Next, we have something quite special. Bladed Hedgehog. It's a 2-cost 1/3, so not like the usual 2/2. With the skill, whenever an enemy follower is destroyed, gain +1 attack. So, I can see this card having the potential to be strong. You can play it on turn 2, and then it's gotta be slightly more difficult to remove than normal because of its 3 health. So your opponent can't just trade a 2-drop follower into it. And then after that, every single time an enemy follower is destroyed, it gains 1 attack. So can be pretty good. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it will not survive very long. You play it on turn 2, at most I think it will survive to turn 4 before it gets traded away. And in that time period, your opponent might only play 1 or 2 followers, so at most it only gains a 2/2 attack buff to make it a 3/3, and by the time it's destroyed. So I think it's an interesting card, but probably won't see a lot of play in Constructed. Of course, this entire review, I'm not taking into account Arena, because Take 2 is crazy and anything can happen in Take 2. So, yeah, everything I'm saying right now is only for Constructed. Next, we have a 2-cost spell, Shield of Flame. It has an effect, deal 3 damage to an enemy follower. So pretty good, 2 cost 3 damage. Then deal 6 damage instead if an allied follower with Ambush is in play. So this is a card to support the ambush mechanic. Actually I think it's pretty strong because a 2-cost deal 6 damage is quite good. Unfortunately, the condition is to have an ally follower with ambush in play, so it's actually not that difficult if you play like, I know some people play Kuno Chi Trainee, or you can also play Tsubaki, which is actually much more commonly seen in mid-range SwordCraft. Both of them can trigger this. Unfortunately, if you want to use this more like to its full effect, you would really want a full stealth, a full ambush deck. One of the things I can see this going into is the deck with Vagabond Frog. It will be very annoying and it's a little bit of a meme, but I can see it being I can see it being used in the Vagabond Frog deck. A little bit crazy, but oh well, it is what it is. So fun card, good removal generally. I know some people might just use it for the deal 3 damage to enemy follower, might just ignore the second part, because 2 cost deal 3 damage is also just not bad, standalone. Following that, we have a 6 cost 6/5, so not bad stats, Axe Destroyer. It's a vanilla unevolved, and on evolve it has the skill destroy an enemy follower or amulet. Pretty normal, I guess. Probably won't see a lot of play because there are much better options. SwordCraft doesn't really need to just destroy something for the sake of it, because you have like Shield of Flame, you have Banes in Momo Hunter, you have Maisie Red Riding Hood, which is cheaper and more reliable. So I guess it's just not good enough to warrant play, I guess. In Arena, could be very strong. In Constructed, not so much, so too bad. Following that, we have Rabbit Ear Attendant. It's a 3 cost 2/3, so actually pretty good. And it has the fanfare, draw X cards. X equals the number of allied neutral cards in play. So this is actually a card with a lot of potential. So what I'm thinking is, in the late game, if you are, say, your board, you have high number of play points, you just drop down a few allied neutral cards, say, I don't know, Goblin Princess, you summon the 2 goblins, and then you play her. You get to draw 3 cards because the 2 goblins count for 1 neutral follower each, plus the Goblin Princess. So I would say it's a extremely strong card with a lot of potential, depending on how you play it. It can draw you a bunch of cards, or it can just draw you 1 card depending on the situation. So if you use it right, it can really refill your hand, and SwordCraft, if not played carefully, can be out-resourced. So it's a good, this card is good for replenishing your hand, so definitely would play it in a neutral SwordCraft deck. So last but not least, here we have a 3 cost spell, Kiss of the Princess. So its skill is give a neutral follower +2/+4. Then change that follower into a SwordCraft commander. So excuse me. I can see this being quite useful. Basically, you give a neutral follower +2/+4. So not only do you buff his stats, then you change it into a SwordCraft commander. So that means you can proc off all your commander skills as long as that follower stays on the board. So it's quite crazy now that I think of it, because it has quite unlimited potential. Any neutral follower can be changed into a SwordCraft commander, and then things can spiral from there. It's the amount of combinations that are in my head right now are crazy, so I won't list any of them, but definitely a very interesting card. Looking forward to experimenting with this card a lot. So yeah, that's about it. I can't list you any examples because it's crazy. It just is. So that's it for this website. Now we shift over to the other one. So in this section, there's only one more card we have to cover, which is Kuno Chi Master. So Kuno Chi, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Kuno Chi Master. She's a 5 cost 3/2 with ambush. I would say she's slightly understated, but of course she has the fanfare summon a Kuno Chi Trainee. So Kuno Chi Trainee is a 2-1, so in total she's a 5-3. Still slightly understated, but since both of them have ambush, I guess it's kind of balanced out. I would say this is more support once again for the ambush mechanic. Is it enough to warrant play? Yes and no. Because if you take a look at Vagabond Frog is definitely strong enough to make a deck of its own. However, whether people actually want to make an ambush deck that is good enough is another question, because Vagabond's Frog refreshes its ambush at the end of every turn, which means basically it can't be targeted infinitely. However, most of these ambush followers, once they attack once, their ambush is gone. So if you really want to set up a deck with it, with this kind of followers, with playing around the ambush mechanic, you really have to hold back your attacks until you're ready for one turn where all your attacks go in and finish the opponent there. So you'll probably couple this deck by playing Kuno Chi Master with Vagabond Frog, and then adding in Rogue's Creed, the amulet that supports this mechanic. And yeah, plus plenty of removal to remove annoying wards that will stand in the way. So that should be the quote-unquote ideal ambush deck. Don't know whether we're gonna see play, but it'll be interesting to see. I might just put one together to try have some fun with it. So I think that'll be it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12, 13. Yes, that'll be it for SwordCraft. Do leave a comment. I think SwordCraft will see quite a bit of play because it is one of those decks that can put a lot of followers on the board, and also because of the token, the Council of Card Knights, it can definitely flood the board very fast. And with cards like some of the neutral cards, I'll just put it as that, you can buff up the board very quickly and make it become very strong. So I'll leave this there. Most of these cards will make a lot of sense when we go to the neutral followers, because the neutral followers tie everything together, since this expansion is supposed to be based on the neutral follower mechanic. So, well, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll move on to the next part in the next video.